The chair of the House Oversight Committee hinted over the weekend that there is evidence that President Biden knew about his son Hunter's business dealings, something the president has repeatedly denied. Here is Congressman James Comer.
I think everything's on the table. Look, we're investigating Joe Biden. We know that Joe Biden said during the presidential campaign that he had no knowledge of his son's business interest. He wasn't involved. He didn't benefit from them. We have evidence that would suggest otherwise, and this is very concerning.
Comer's remarks come as Hunter's lawyers refused House Republicans' request for records about his China-related business activities. His legal team saying Hunter is a private citizen entitled to certain protections from congressional investigations. Republican Senator Ron Johnson urging his colleagues in the House to interview 51 former intelligence officials, the ones who signed that letter before the 2020 election, casting doubt on the Hunter Biden laptop story.
The most effective effort of sabotage was the 51 intelligence officials who said that the laptop had all the earmarks of a Russian information operation. That letter that they sent was an information operation itself and impacted and interfered in our election to a far greater extent than anything Russia could have ever hoped to accomplish. So the House has to call those 51 intelligence officials.
Jason Rantz, Seattle radio talk show host, joining us now. Jason, great to see you, and thanks for kicking off a new week with us here on the Faulkner Focus. So, you go back to Comer's words, and he makes a good point. It's not just President Biden that has repeatedly denied, interacting with his son over his son's business dealings. It was candidate Joe Biden as well. We all remember the moment on the trail with Peter Doocy, and there were more of them. But is it looking more and more likely that this was the case, that he did have knowledge of his son's business dealings?
I find it hard to believe that he didn't. At this point, we've certainly seen a lot of the evidence. We've seen the email with Big Guy mentioned, which was a reference to Joe Biden. We heard that voicemail that certainly hints that he knew about something. We know from Tony Bobolinsky that basically he was in on this from the beginning, or at least had a large amount of knowledge. But above all, when you have Joe Biden dismissing the laptop story as Russian propaganda, when he must have known that that was the truth, that does suggest that he's lying about everything, because that was so obviously a lie. We knew at the time it was a lie. We know now it was a lie. So what else is he lying about? I think that this is an important piece of the conversation. I do think that the congressman has to come forward and tell us how he benefited from it. Having knowledge of this is a scandal, certainly, because he lied. But I'm more interested, and I think most people are more interested on how he benefited and the family benefited from this position.
Surely more folks want some transparency on this issue. Meanwhile, I'll put this up on the screen. The conservative nonprofit Judicial Watch got hundreds of documents from the Secret Service relating to Hunter Biden, some of them raising questions about the agency possibly protecting Hunter Biden over an issue with his missing gun. His girlfriend at the time threw the gun into a trash can at a supermarket. One email from a Secret Service agent on the issue reading, "Oh dear." Another from an agency specialist says it's kind of odd that we were involved in the missing gun investigation when neither Hunter or Joe were even receiving U.S. Secret Service protection at the time. Hunter's gun purchase is part of the government's investigation into his personal and professional dealings. So what do you take away from this? And was the agency possibly protecting President Biden's son, Hunter?
Look, at the end of the day, what this establishes is that everyone knew that he lied on his form when he ended up getting this gun. And I'm told by Democrats all the time, they care deeply about gun rights and gun control. They care deeply about keeping guns out of the hands of the worst possible people. And we have someone who at the time not only lied, but what he lied about. He was a drug addict. He was getting a gun and lied on a form, benefited from that lie, and there's no consequences whatsoever. So what the Secret Service knew at the time certainly establishes that it was well known that he lied. How far this went as to a cover-up potentially or helping him, we obviously don't know, but I do think that these emails raise that question, and I do think that that is worth investigating. The Secret Service is there for protection, sure, but also they're not there to cover up any kind of scandal for a candidate or a candidate's son.
All right, Jason, now to an issue that is front and center in this city every single day, and that is the spike in crime. The streets of New York City are meaner than they've been in more than 15 years. New police data revealing soaring felony crimes. More than 170,000 of them reported in the Big Apple last year, a 20% jump from the year before, the most since 2006. When the NYPD first started making those stats public. Today's New York Post cover sums it up this way. Record felonies return city to bad old days. Meanwhile, a top Democrat strategist and former Clinton White House insider is hitting his party over its soft on crime policies.
For Democrats and my fellow liberals, it's the people we supposedly care about who are the victims of crime. It's those folks who are voting for more security, more safety, more and better cops. And it's the white liberals who want to defund the police.
This is a big Achilles heel for the Democrats, is it not?
Oh, they need to get out in front of it. They need to. I want a Democrat to stand up and say, some people belong in jail. The rapists, the murderers.
One clap for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but they do.
I think that's very interesting. I'm going to go out on a limb. Some people do belong in jail.
Quite a moment there, quite an exchange, Jason. Is this a sign that Democrats are waking up to these soft on crime policies and how they're destroying great American cities?
I don't actually think it's a wake-up call for them, because we've known this for how long now. Kudos to Paul Begala for 2 years later actually telling the truth about what's going on and where the Democrats stand. But we are still seeing to this day prosecutors who are Democrats and activists who are pushing to keep people out of jail. We had an instance just the other day of a congresswoman who was attacked at an apartment in D.C. It turns out, reportedly, the guy who attacked her had just been in jail and pled down from a serious charge to no charges whatsoever and was released. This is happening every single day in this country. It's not just in New York. It's happening everywhere. And we are less safe because of it. There is an ideological belief that the criminal justice system is steeped in white supremacy, and thus anyone who's a criminal is actually a victim of this racist system. It is absurd. Democrats en masse have to stand up and speak out against it. But I don't think so, because the radical left has the edge on this conversation right now within the party.
You can make this case for so many policies right now that they're hurting the very people they say they're out to help the most. You could say that about crime. You could say that about inflation as well. It's the poorer communities who are dealing with that, and it hurts them the most. Jason, great to have you here. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.